Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Right, a slight switch of pace. We are now going to be reimagining the skies and talking about the future of flight and the future of aviation. Just to set the scene, though, aerospace and aviation here in the UAE contribute $47.4 billion to the UAE economy. That's 13.3% of UAE GDP and accounts for 800,000 jobs. So here we know, those of us that live in the UAE, how important aerospace and aviation is and how far-sighted the leadership has been in making the UAE the home of the future of aviation. And with that background, I'm now going to turn to Kuljit and ask you, Kuljit, from Boeing, please introduce yourself and also tell us what for you is the future of aviation and the future of flight.
Sure, thanks, Tom. Look, it's great to be here. I'm Kuljit Garta-Ora. I'm very proud to represent the Boeing Company and lead the Boeing Company in Middle East, Turkey, Africa, and Central Asia. Look, this is, as you know, the Middle East is just a terrific destination. It's also traditionally been just a terrific crossing point for people moving from east to west. And, certainly we see that in the way that aviation is developing here. But if we wind forward to 2050, and the reason I picked 2050 is that that's the date in which the world has committed to go net zero. It's the date that aviation has committed to reach net zero. If you're looking at 2050, all the estimates, the sensible estimates from organizations like ATAG are that there are going to be something like 10 billion passengers on commercial aircraft by 2050. That's going to support 180 million jobs worldwide, and that's going to generate something like $9 trillion in economic activity. So this is all huge, and these are all the projections that both ourselves and Airbus, we're pretty much on the same page in terms of that. But if you look at what's really going to support that, we really look at this in a few ways. And the ones that I would focus on today are that we really see the future as being sustainable, digital, and autonomous. I think the sustainability part of it, I think everybody will understand. The UAE is holding the presidency of COP28. The UAE has taken a leading role in sustainability, particularly regionally. It was the first government to sign up to net zero goals. And it's always been in the forefront of sustainability. But again, if you look at the fleet projections, our position at Boeing has always been that there is one near and long-term solution to helping aviation play its part in decarbonisation, and that's the deployment of sustainable aviation fuel. And we've been very consistent about that for the last 15 years. We have worked with partners, airlines, governments, regulators all around the world to convene parties really for that aim, to generate sustainable aviation, because clearly at present there isn't enough of it to make it affordable. And what you're beginning to see now are in some countries incentives. So if you look in the United States, the Inflation Reduction Act is a great example of where incentives have created an industry where you can manufacture sustainable aviation fuel at prices within the range of jet A fuel. Europe is coming out with mandates. The Singapore Air Show last week, the mandate came out of Singapore. So regulators are getting alive to this. I think that, honestly, if you look at the numbers of planes that will be in the air by 2050, yes, you are going to get the newer aircraft that are just by their nature more fuel efficient. So every time ourselves or Airbus bring out a new model, it's something like 20 to 25% more fuel efficient, which is great. But the older planes are still going to be in the air for a number of years, and the solution there is sustainable aviation fuel, because ultimately you need a drop-in solution that's not going to require you to significantly alter airport design, other infrastructure around aircraft, because you've got to really assess this issue from an aviation perspective on the overall life cycle impact on the environment. So we've got a great product out there called Cascade, which is openly available. You can go on the internet and look at it and play around with it. And what it allows you to do is pick any single route. And we mapped every route in 2019 as the baseline for this tool. And you can look at every single route. You can look at different types of aircraft. You could look at different fuel types. And it will help understand what the overall life cycle impact is. And that's really important because, honestly, you could fill up you could put hydrogen, for example. You could put an all-hydrogen aircraft in this model. But we know on the technology that exists now, for the kind of mass transit that we're looking at, hydrogen's not the answer. So I think it's a very impactful tool, and one that really, again, just shows us how important SAF is. And look, we're very proud and privileged to have been part of the SAF journey in the UAE. Back in 2010, we worked with Etihad, with ADNOC, with UOP on the Sustainable Bioenergy Research Council. This was taking biomass produced from fish farming and using it to irrigate saltwater salicornia to produce biofuel. So this was in 2010, so such an early adopter, and here in the UAE. And of course, the UAE has been a huge investor in renewable energy, particularly through Masdar. Look at the investments in hydrogen and the hydrogen strategy here. And that, of course, led us to our participation with the SAF roadmap with the UAE, which really shows how important power to liquid will be to create a SAF industry here in the UAE. But the key aspect of helping to create this environment is really to bring all the members of the value stream together. And so we were very proud to be part of a consortium that was announced at CAF3, which was I always look at it as being just between the air show and COP28 because of how many events that we had at the end of last year. But at CAF3, we had a very groundbreaking, interesting consortium entered into by ourselves, our long-term research and university partner, Khalifa University, Emirates, Etihad, ADNOC, ENOC, to really, as I say, bring that full value stream together to look at ways in which we could accelerate the findings of the SAF roadmap, which were to really create a SAF industry here in the UAE.
Amazing. And speaking of your investments, I'm going to bring in Adam of Archer. Adam, please tell us your story, and also please explain to everyone what eVTOLs are, for those that don't know. Electric vertical takeoff and landing. And paint a picture of how you envisage the future of flight.
So we're building these new aircraft that will be used in an industry that's called urban air mobility. So these are vehicles that take off and land like helicopters, but then they fly forward on a wing like an airplane. And the acronym that people like to use is eVTOL, or electric vertical takeoff and landing. These aircraft have really an opportunity to change transportation globally. Morgan Stanley put out a report recently where they said they thought the industry could be as big as $9 trillion in 2040. And so Archer is building these aircrafts, and we're in the advanced stages now through the regulatory process, where we've been working with the FAA back in the US to bring these vehicles into the market. And the UAE is actually the first market we've announced outside of the US. So these vehicles are piloted, and they carry up to 4 passengers. They fly up to 100 miles at around 150 miles per hour. So think about like helicopter replacement as a way to think about it, but also much more scalable. And so eVTOL vehicles have tremendous benefits that go beyond the fact that they're sustainable. They are very quiet when flying overhead. They don't make noise. They are very, very safe. They have redundancy all over the vehicle, so no single points of failure. And because they're electric, they can be scaled at very high rates and can be flown a lot, driving the overall total cost down. And so all of a sudden you have this new market that can emerge, which we're very excited to be one of the leaders bringing that here. So we've announced that we've been working with the Abu Dhabi Investment Office and our longtime partner investor Mubadala to really help bring these aircraft to the UAE. And I think the UAE has been one of the countries that has leaned in the most to really help bring these aircrafts to market and change the entire world from a transportation perspective.
Incredible. And so why do you think now globally? Why is now the time? I mean, we've seen eVTOLs in the Jetsons, we've seen flying cars. Why is now the big moment for this to happen?
It's really being driven by three big factors. The first one is that the core underlying technologies, the batteries, really just got good enough. So they became energy dense enough, they became power dense enough to the point where you can actually power aircraft, lift them off the ground, lift enough cargo, people off the ground, and take it far enough where it's actually useful. So you need to be able to replace trips, say, that take 60 to 90 minutes on the ground with flights that can now take 5 to 10 minutes. And so the batteries got good enough to enable you to do that. The second thing that happened was there has just become this political will to make it happen. So there's all these new advancements we're seeing in technology, and aviation is really on the cusp of this electrification revolution. And so there's this real kind of charge behind the regulators to really bring these new aircraft to market. But it goes beyond just transforming transportation, but there's a huge safety benefit that's brought into it too as well, because you no longer have these single points of failure. But then the third thing that happened was the capital markets really opened up to fund these new hardware types of companies, and I think a lot of that has to do with the thanks to Tesla and sort of the gains that they've happened there. So it's a really ripe opportunity for the industry. The product that we're building at Archer is called the Midnight Aircraft. It's very advanced in the regulatory process, and we expect to bring these aircraft to market as early as next year.
Great. And Kuljit, in terms of how Boeing thinks about new up-and-coming technologies, how do you think about eVTOLs?
Yeah, look, we honestly believe that eVTOLs are going to be essential, particularly in the urban area, just like Adam's said. I mean, those of us who live in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Dubai in particular, I mean, the roads are extremely busy, and I think every time you are out, you're thinking, wouldn't it be great if we could take more traffic off the roads? And I think how we're approaching this area is really through autonomy. So I want to talk about two companies. One is a subsidiary of ours called Wisk, and Wisk intends to be the company that first certifies an all-autonomous eVTOL. Because at Boeing, we honestly feel that the way that we're going to get to scale in the eVTOL industry is through autonomy, and we're very proud that we're actually the autonomy partner for Archer. So I mean, that's again, they've got the foresight to see that that's going to be very important in the future. And the reason we say that is really from a safety perspective. Our view again at Boeing is that when a member of the public gets on one of these eVTOLs, it is as safe as getting on a commercial aircraft. And that's really, really important. And so therefore, you're going to have to look at, if the idea is that you're going to have pilots of the requisite standard flying these vehicles, I think those of you who understand the industry will know that there's already a shortage of pilots. So again, if this industry is really going to get to scale, we see autonomy as being hugely important. And then there's another company that I want to talk to you about, which is one of our joint venture companies called SkyGrid, because one of the key aspects of how this will work is to properly integrate the airspace. So again, think about it from this perspective. You've got, obviously, airport infrastructure with air traffic control. You're going to have something similar that deals with this segment. and integrates it with other airspace. And that's the really important role that our JV company SkyGrid plays. And I think that for me, if you're going to look at how you really grow and scale this industry, yes, it's going to be about the great providers who bring in these top-class certified vehicles that are autonomy capable, but it's also going to be about creating the right regulatory environment for us, for everybody to be complete and feel completely safe about doing so.
Great. And Adam, how do you think about autonomy versus piloted at the moment?
So we are going to be entering into the market with a piloted aircraft. And I think it's the best way to actually get through this adoption period where we're ultimately bringing millions of people into the air on these new types of aircraft.
Should we quickly have a show of hands? Who here would get into a flying taxi? Yes, you're all in the right place. Good, so you've got a good captive market. Who would get into one without a pilot? Excellent. Well, we've got some great guinea pigs here for you when you're ready.
Well,
but
perfect.
yeah, tell us through. But you piloted as the first phase.
Yeah, pilot is the first phase, and then ultimately we agree that the path to scaling is through autonomy. I'll tell you what's interesting about being here at Investopia and talking about this. You'd think so. I'm an entrepreneur and working on a super ambitious company building these new flying cars. And my neighbors are incredibly entrepreneurial companies, Tesla and Apple and Facebook. These are the companies that are literally right next door to where Archer's based. And it takes a lot to impress me from an entrepreneurial spirit. But coming to the UAE has been just an unbelievable experience and has absolutely blown me away from the entrepreneurialism, the spirit that is going on here. If you are starting a company and you are starting an industry, this is the perfect place that leans in from a regulatory standpoint, that leans in from an infrastructure standpoint, that leans in from an operating standpoint. So the entire urban air mobility network is being built here in the UAE, which has made it an incredible place for Archer and the entire eVTOL industry to start. And that's why I've been so excited to operate here, to come here, and to participate in Investopia.
Amazing. Well, I think you've heard it here first. Why now? Why here in the UAE? We started off with the aviation and aerospace contribution to the UAE economy, and I think we're all very excited here about the future of flight, and we look forward to many of you flying on eVTOLs in the future. Final words, Kuljit, from you, please.
Yeah, I just want to pick up on something that Adam said that I think needs to be said again. The UAE presents just a really unique environment to bring all the stakeholders together in a very easy and seamless way. And also, I think, and this is really important from the perspective of industries like aviation, where there can be a long-term policy that isn't susceptible to, regime change, as it were, like in terms of one party getting voted out and one party getting voted in. I think there's a lot to be said for an investment climate that just gives that level of stability. The other point is that look, the UAE made some significant investments in aerospace assets 10 years ago, and these are now being leveraged. So if you look at Strata, they're a partner for Archer. Obviously, Boeing, we're proud of what we've been doing with Strata since its inception. Very proud that they are the manufacturer of the 787 vertical fin. The great work we do with Edge Precision Industries, which again is a world-class facility of which there isn't another one in the Middle East, quite frankly. So all these investments are again, just show the foresighted nature of the UAE and now can be leveraged for the technologies of the future.
Cool. Adam, final word from you. 2030, how many eVTOLs will be above our heads?
How about a bolder prediction? In as early as 2025 and as late as 2026, you will see eVTOLs, flying cars, flying around Abu Dhabi. You'll see them flying around Dubai, taking you from Abu Dhabi to Dubai. Trips that used to take you 60, 90 minutes on the ground that we can fly in 10 minutes. And we'll make everybody's lives better. It'll be a very, very safe and enjoyable experience, and will be the start of an aviation revolution.
Amazing. Well, perhaps we can fly here next year on that, and many of you can join us. Thank you very much, guys.